How much stitching do I think I'm gonna be able to do while I'm in England, seeing the country and taking a course and, you know, being a tourist? I don't know. I have high hopes. The term chicken scratch has a few different meanings. I immediately associate it with handwriting so poor you can barely read it, like the prescription I got from an eye doctor once that was written so badly we were never able to fully decipher it, even with the help of another doctor. Also, there's some stuff that you feed chickens that's called chicken scratch apparently, and that seems to be the main result if you just Google the term. There's also several restaurants around the country who I don't think are a chain, but just like all had the same idea for a name called chicken scratch, and possibly one called scratch chicken. But to top it all off, it's also a type of embroidery. Woo! Let's move somewhere else so I can wear glasses without them becoming a sheet of white reflection. It also goes by gingham embroidery. Gingham? Gingham? Gingham. It's really just occurring to me right now what a weird word that is. Gingham. Gingham. Which is probably the most descriptive term out there because you do embroider on gingham. It's crucial to the style. Then there's snowflake embroidery, Amish embroidery or Amish lace, and depression lace. The lace part is referring to the illusion of lace that this style can create when you're seeing it from afar. And then of course there's many other names from other countries for what is essentially the exact same concept because, as is often the case, multiple cultures, societies, and peoples will come up with the exact same idea completely independently of each other. It seems like the term chicken scratch started to specifically be used during the 1930s, maybe. Depression lace, because this style was used to fake a lacy look at a really economically trying time. But big surprise, there's little to no information on the history and origin of gingham embroidery. Wow! I discovered the term and a description of the style several years ago now when I was trying to make a comprehensive list of every embroidery style out there. I gave up on that list because of the same aforementioned lack of history and information. Ah yes, women's work. Why would anyone care, right? Is there steam coming out of my ears? So yeah, all that to say, chicken scratch has been on my list for ages now, and having tackled crewel, sashiko, and bargello, now seemed like a good time. Mainly because I am in need of some travel embroidery. I have a travel embroidery piece, something that I take on planes and road trips and to background jobs, but it's a little chunky. It does not fit in a small purse, and I can't really just carry it around with me everywhere, which is what I like to do when I'm traveling abroad for a chunk of time, which I'm about to do. Last year I took sashiko with me to France, and this year I would like to take gingham embroidery with me to England. Do I really need to be starting a new embroidery project when I'm about to go take a 2-week course in crewel work that requires me to finish an entire piece before I leave? What a ridiculous question, of course! What would I do on the plane? So as the name implies, or just straight up informs, gingham embroidery is done on gingham. The squares built into the fabric itself are a great guide so that you don't have to draw a grid or count threads or whatever else people are doing to get nice, even, neat stitches. I pulled the 2 woven ginghams that I already have from my collection and then realized a few days later that these might be a little bit small for chicken scratch, especially this one. I don't know, I'm gonna try it. Maybe I'll just be doing like a more delicate version with a fewer threads, but if it doesn't work out, I might be taking a trip to the fabric store. Other than that, we basically just need a needle. There's needles in here. A needle, scissors, and embroidery floss. White if we want to be super traditional, but then I'm not really much of a traditional stitcher. I like to explore these different techniques and then, you know, take what I learned and do it however I want, because isn't that what creativity is all about? So I'm gonna do some in solid white. Like, I think maybe I'll do 2 different versions and do one kind of more traditional in the solid white, but then on the second one, I definitely think I'm gonna branch out and add some more colors. I mean, ultimately, the plain white floss was probably either an attempt to mimic the style of lace or just the result of not having a lot of supplies during the Depression era. And again, in the world of tradition, there seems to be some specificity to the stitches that you can use if you want to actually be doing chicken scratch. Like if you use different stitches, then it's technically not that anymore, but as with the color, I'll probably do one that's more traditional using the proper stitches and branch out on the other one. Traditionally, it is a straight stitch, or you could call it a running stitch, a cross stitch, a double cross stitch, and then you can weave either circles or ovals through those stitches. That's it. A lot of the more modern sort of branching out styles that I saw and really liked were using what maybe you could still call a woven oval, but kinda was more of a lazy daisy in my opinion, which gives you those sort of daisy floral motifs, which I think is super cute, especially when you bring in other colors. So I'm just gonna start on a corner of each of these materials and try out all of the different stitches, maybe try to copy a few motifs that I've seen in my inspiration images, see what thread weights and stitch sizes work for the two of these, and then decide if we're going out today. I didn't want to go out today, but I did just realize I need to go out for another reason, so might as well. I kind of want a green gingham or a yellow one, so I have like a trio. Okay, let's try it. While I give that a go, let's hear a word from today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. When it comes to picking up a new skill, sometimes you just want to wing it with no guidelines at all, and other times, a little guidance can be helpful. While I'm a wing it kiddo in the embroidery world, there are other areas where I could definitely use a teacher, like, painting? What I love about Skillshare classes is that you can get specific. Want to pick up watercolor? There's options. Portrait painting? Dive in. I've been thinking specifically about murals, because I have some blank walls in this house, quite a few. I loved Ellie Shipman's class, Design and Paint a Mural with Procreate, because it really starts from the beginning and makes the whole process feel achievable for someone who's not already well-versed in drawing. Skillshare also now offers learning paths, like this one for starting your first YouTube channel, because in a lot of areas, one class may not be enough. They've put together and ordered several classes, often from different creators, so you can start at the beginning, grow your abilities class by class, and get varied perspectives. Don't let the summer go by without learning something new, finally trying that hobby you've been dreaming about, or taking your current skills to the next level. The first 500 people to click the link in my description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Get started today and let me know what you're learning this summer. Now let's go see how that embroidery is coming along. I started with the 1/4" red gingham, trying without a hoop because I've seen it done both taut and relaxed in the hand, and using all 6 strands. Feels a little bulky on those double cross stitches, but otherwise I think it works just fine for this size of square. Granted, I had forgotten all the motifs I had seen and couldn't be bothered to get up and check them again, so instead I just made some random basic stitches and called it a solid practice day on that one. Switching to the blue gingham, which is something like 3/16 of an inch squares, I split the floss into 3 strands, much better weight for the more delicate size. I also tried using a hoop this time, which, as hoops tend to do, made it a bit easier to get perfectly taut stitches, but less easy to do the sewing method, or what I still prefer to call the slide method of stitching. You know, like down and up through the fabric in one go. I took the time to look at my inspiration images again and realized that for the woven circles, the straight stitches are done in the center of the mid-colored squares, rather than on the edges as I'd been doing them before. And yeah, this is a fun little look. I feel like that was a decent amount of practice on both. I'm gonna stop by Joann briefly and just see if I can find either another 1/4" gingham, or maybe even a slightly bigger one. I'd like to get something that doesn't have the texture to it that this one has, but if I can't find anything, it's not the end of the world. I can definitely use both of these. I actually do really like the more delicate look of the smaller squares. I don't know, it just feels a little like less chicken scratchy, but I'm liking it more and more the more I look at it, so I don't know. Then I'm just gonna pack all of this up. I've got some white and then a few other just sort of basic cute colors in there for my non-traditional method. And we're gonna jet off to London. I wonder how much of this stuff I should bring though. Like, I don't wanna bring these entire chunks of fabric, even though they're small. I don't need the whole thing, but I don't really know what I'm making with it, so I don't know. I should definitely cut them down though. I don't know, I'll decide at the last minute. It'll be fine. Of course, Joanne had plenty of gingham, so I went with this lovely yellow one that seems slightly bigger in square size than the red. I also found a fat quarter that's significantly bigger squares and figured, why not? It's on sale, which in turn made me decide to cut a fat quarter section out of each material to take with me. Still not quite sure what I'm going to do with each, but in looking at my inspiration images closer, I realized there's an illusion in Chicken Scratch that involves using a floss color that matches the darkest color of the gingham. So I added a few somewhat matching flosses to my little to-go bag and we are off to England. Started and finished my first little bit of stitching before the plane even left the ground. Yeah, it's a pretty speedy stitch style, but also we just took forever to take off. The next day I stitched some more while on an afternoon tea train trip through the countryside, and should you ever find yourself with the opportunity to sip champagne and stitch on a train, I must say it gets my highest recommendation. I've reached a bit of a stopping place on this first piece, not really on purpose, so I thought I'd give a few of my initial thoughts before I carry on. I was sticking with the most common, I don't know, design motif that I kept seeing, which is the sort of 4 straight stitches in the middle of squares with a woven circle and then a double cross stitch in your leftover squares. And I started with white and did sort of the inverse. So I did the pattern one way according to the squares behind, where my woven circles are over the darkest square, and then I switched it so that the double cross stitch is over the darkest square, which is fun to see just sort of the difference that that makes. Because it's basically, are you highlighting the darkest square with the white so that that kind of stands out? Or are you covering it as much as possible with the white so that you have a generally more white appearance, I guess? And then I started doing the exact same thing with a coordinating color, so like a pink that kind of goes with the pinks of this. And I got the first one done, but I'm gonna run out of floss. I only brought 2 of the coordinating colors, and even the white, I brought a bunch of white floss and I'm already running low on it. I think these squares on this particular fabric are bigger than you'd typically see for Chicken Scratch, although I kind of personally really like this size. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. But the combo of the bigger squares and then using all 6 strands, it runs through your floss real fast. Just so you know, if you're doing Chicken Scratch, you might wanna prep with a lot of floss. I also tried numerous different sort of directions or patterns of putting this on so that there would be as little thread as possible on the back of the piece, which, like, that's not an insane amount of floss to be wasting on the back of the piece, especially compared to doing like satin stitch or something, but I never really found the perfect method, or I just keep changing things up because I'm always changing things up. So I do want to do the last stripe of the pink floss once I get some more pink floss. Luckily, every day I go to a place that is full of floss. But yeah, initial thoughts. I like the big squares. I am moving on to the smaller squares, but I enjoyed that. I'm gonna try to do something different now, something a little more varied, get some woven ovals in there and stuff. But it's a really nice kind of repetitive stitch style. I think if you like cross stitch or bargello, you might really enjoy chicken scratch, especially because you don't have that counting element. So with the squares already on there and you just following the lines of the squares, it's that sort of repetitive, calm, therapeutic stitching with none of the counting and keeping track. We love that. I have now started the actual class that I came to England to do, where we're stitching crewel work, which made me think that, you know, once I started that, I wouldn't really be working on this, but that's on like a giant frame. I can bring it home and work on it here, but this I've been working on like while I'm sitting in a restaurant. So I think I'm gonna continue working on this. I'm gonna try the yellow fabric next. Am I? And that would look so pretty with some other colors like purple and green on there. So I think I'm gonna do something with more of the modern style motifs on there. Good times, great chat. I gotta go walk to the palace now for class, so bye. I ended up finding a quilting store in the neighborhood that had anchor floss, so I got a similar pink and did the final rendition of this basic stitch. And actually, I think that's my favorite version. Then I decided to leave the yellow gingham until I get back home, because I kind of want to try properly stabilizing and framing it. Switched to the red gingham instead, where I'm going to try a few versions of another more traditional pattern. Still just utilizing one color of floss and the limited stitches. Getting some woven ovals in there though. Over the course of the next week or so, I stitched on it when I could, on trains, in cafes, in castle gardens. Okay, pardon the random location and lighting, I'm in a houseboat. But I finished my 2 sections on the red gingham. We have the red section and then the white section. They're exactly the same pattern, just done on the proper squares for the color that they are, but I love how they ended up looking very different if you just glance at them. They don't really immediately strike you as being the exact same pattern. I still have a bit to go on my England trip, so I'm gonna switch over to the blue stuff, which I'm going to split all of my floss for and just do 3 strands. And I think for this, what I'm gonna do is some patterns that I've seen where basically you can play around a little bit more with the weaving. So I'm just gonna start by laying down a solid sized grid of the white double cross stitches on the darkest square. Then you can go back with more white or other colors and do like square-shaped weaving or cross-shaped weaving, or like there was one that looked like butterflies. So I'm just going to start with the double cross stitch and then play around with it later on, and probably stick with this until the end of this trip. I've only just realized that I was apparently using 2 different colors of white floss doing this. I don't even know if you can tell on camera because it's so slight. But this row, and then a few of the X's on this row, is like a bright white, and this is more of a cream white. Whoops. Oh well. Halfway through my flight home, I figured I should probably stop making double cross stitches and start doing some weaving. But I only got a little bit done before breakfast was served and my back was killing me, so I ended up finishing it over the next few days at home between lots and lots of editing. I'm actually not a huge fan of this one. I don't think the colors that I kind of very quickly threw into my bag actually went together super well or look super good on this blue, but that's okay because it basically turned into an experiment on how to weave on the double cross stitches all the various ways. Like for instance, these right here, the pink and the blue, ended up looking pretty much the same, but they're actually both done differently. They were both stitched in a completely different way and just ended up looking the same at the end. So, you know, stuff like that is good to know, I guess. Fascinating. Ooh. So the yellow piece, move with me. So the most common thing that you'll see chicken scratch on is aprons. Are aprons? Thing is aprons. Nope, that was actually grammatically correct. I don't really use aprons though. I don't have much need for an apron, so what's the point? I thought instead maybe I'll make a really simple wrap skirt, because I only bought, I think, 2 yards of this, so that's not a ton, but I think I could make a short-ish wrap skirt, or maybe one that's just not a full circle. And then I'll put patch pockets on it and do the chicken scratch on the pockets. I'm gonna do color, but I chose just a purple and a green to go with the white that I think looks really nice with that. I want something florally in the motif, something with like the daisies in it and all of that. Am I still gonna wing it on the design as I go? Probably. Why not? Okay, let's do it. Several hours later, because life happens, I actually started working on this final chicken scratch piece. I had made a bit of a graph plan of the design I want to do-ish. It'll probably change as I go. And then I decided to stabilize the area where I'll be stitching with some interfacing. I want to leave the selvage as the top of the pocket because I love the little fringy bits. This is not the ideal way to frame a piece of fabric for embroidery, but you know what? It'll do. That can be set aside to work on while I'm, you know, watching TV. And in the meantime, I could get the skirt started. Could being the key word here. I thought hard. I did math. I squished and squinched and tried all the ways possible, but my wrap circle skirt wasn't gonna fit on the remaining fabric, even if I cut it down to a shocking half circle. I spent a good while staring into space considering other options. Gingham bloomers would be freaking adorable, but finally, upon the realization that I bought this fabric from Joanne and could therefore go buy more, I gave up and bought more. I was really attached to my wrap skirt idea. Actually, I really wanted to make it a wrap skirt with like an optional pinafore top, so for once I figured I'd just take the simple way out with more material. Let myself have this one. I'm glad I did. This is gonna be adorable. I'll leave the pinafore top to cut out later because I might add some chicken scratch to that too, which means you want extra fabric around it for framing and all that stuff. But I can get the skirt constructed. Super simple, super quick, and leave that to hang for a bit while I get stitching. In the end, I let go of my beloved frayed selvage top in favor of lining the pockets with a second layer of fabric, which should help protect that stitching a little more when I inevitably throw this in the washer and dryer. Finally, I just wanted to make up a simple pinafore top and straps that can detach from the skirt for 2 different looks. And of course, I had to get a little more chicken scratch on there. I revisited the original, more traditional pattern I did weeks ago as a simple stripe across the pinafore top. Only took a few hours to stitch it, and then there was just a bit of sewing left before I had the final product. Well, that was fun. I'm not sure that I have anything new to add since my like midpoint thoughts on chicken scratch. It's pretty quick. You can do it in or out of a frame, kind of depending on what fabric you're using. I tried it both ways. Great for the not having to count or keep track of anything. It's a very light on the brain style of stitching. Yeah, those squares are just really, really helpful. Although, you'd be surprised, or maybe I was just surprised, my two original gingham fabrics that I had, both were not actual squares. The squares of the pattern were rectangles, noticeably when you look close. You don't really notice it from a distance. So it does just end up with a slightly different look. So if you're choosing fabric for this, don't just like grab a gingham. You might want to double check it and make sure that the squares are actually squares. But yeah, it's a really fun look. I actually, in the end, I don't know, I think I kind of like the traditional the most, just with the white. Like the flowers and adding color was so pretty, and I think some of the inspiration images that I found that did the more modern take on it, I really, really liked, but then I didn't want to just directly copy them. And my versions, I just don't like quite as much. But it's like this plain white, simple pattern just kind of automatically looks good on any background color, on any size. It's a really nice way to add some interest and some texture and something fun to a garment you're making. So yeah, highly recommend giving it a try, especially if you need just a simple, easy on the brain embroidery project, a travel embroidery project. It was great for traveling. Another embroidery style marked off the list. Huzzah! What style should I try next? There are still so many on the list. As always, thank you for being here. I don't know if I could say as always. I don't always say thank you for being here. It's always implied. I gotta go change out of all this cuteness into some funky work clothes, cause guess what else is coming up soon? Home renovations. Hi, my baby. Ooh, I need to blow my nose. And having now, but to top it all off, struggling with words cause it's early in the morning. Did Mommy trap you? Where did I put my phone? Oh, it's in my pocket. That's why I have pockets. Okay.
Do you want anything?
Did I do this wrong? Do I want anything from the Apple store?
I mean, I'll be in the mall. Do you want anything from the mall?
From the mall in general?
Yeah.
No, I'm good, my love. Nice.